You woke up this morning and checked your phone before you got out of bed. You sat at a desk for hours. You ate food from a package. You scrolled through a feed of strangers' opinions, felt vaguely anxious about nothing specific, and could not quite explain why. None of that is laziness, weakness, and not a personal failure. It's something far stranger, far older, and the answer to it has been sitting inside your skull for 200,000 years. Your brain is not broken. It is just running the wrong software for the world you live in. And the gap between the two is quietly, measurably destroying you. This is not a metaphor. The science is real. The data is in. And once you understand what your brain was actually built to do, you will never look at your own anxiety, your cravings, your loneliness, or your exhaustion the same way again. Here is the number that matters. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, have existed for roughly 200,000 years. Agriculture appeared about 12,000 years ago. The Industrial Revolution began less than 300 years ago. The internet has been in most households for barely 30. That means more than 95% of human existence happened in a completely different world. A world of small bands of 20 to 150 people, constant movement, intermittent food, immediate physical danger, deep social bonds built over a lifetime with the same faces. Natural selection does not move fast. It does not care about the last 300 years. The brain you are using right now was shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of a life that no longer exists. Dr. Colin Shaw, evolutionary anthropologist at the University of Zurich, and Dr. Daniel Longman at Loughborough University published a study in the journal Biological Reviews in late 2025. Their conclusion was direct. Modern life has outpaced human evolution. The biological systems that kept humans healthy, resilient, and mentally stable for millennia are now firing in environments they were never designed for. The result is not just discomfort. It is measurable physical and psychological damage. And it is accelerating. But to understand why, you need to understand what the brain was actually built to do. Start with stress. Because the way your body handles stress is one of the clearest examples of the mismatch. Robert Sapolsky is a professor of biology and neurology at Stanford University. He has spent decades studying the stress response in both baboons on the Serengeti Plain and in modern human populations. His conclusion is one of the most important things anyone has written about human health. The stress response system did not evolve for chronic activation. Here is what that means. When a predator appeared, a lion, a hyena, a rival group, the human body flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Heart rate spiked, blood diverted from digestion to muscles, focus sharpened to a single point. The body prepared to run or fight. And then it was over. The threat passed. The hormones cleared. The body returned to baseline. That is what the system was built for. Short bursts, real danger, resolution. But here is the problem. The hormonal mechanisms that govern your stress response cannot tell the difference between a lion and your email inbox, between a predator and a mortgage payment, between a threat to survival and a difficult conversation with your boss. The glucocorticoid release is biologically identical. And unlike a predator encounter, modern stressors do not end. They repeat, daily, predictably, for years. The stress system fires and fires and fires, and the physiological damage accumulates accordingly. Sapolsky showed that chronic cortisol exposure actually shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory formation and spatial navigation. The amygdala, which processes fear and threat detection, becomes hyperactive. The brain becomes less capable of forming stable memories, less able to regulate its own emotional responses, and more prone to detecting threats that are not there. Anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue. These are not modern inventions. They are ancient survival systems running without an off switch. The stress system is only one layer. Pull any thread of modern life and you find the same pattern. The brain reaching for something it evolved to need, and finding only a cheap substitute. Take dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. It evolved to drive behavior toward things that were rare and genuinely valuable. Food, water, social connection, sex. Finding those things in an environment of scarcity released dopamine. The feeling of pleasure was the brain saying, do that again. That keeps you alive. Keith Humphreys, professor of psychiatry at Stanford University, described it precisely. We have an old brain in a new environment. That system worked beautifully in conditions of scarcity. In modern conditions, it becomes a liability, because now, everything that releases dopamine has been engineered to release more of it, faster than anything in nature. Processed food is more calorie-dense and flavor-intense than anything our ancestors ever encountered. Social media delivers the social feedback our brains crave, the signals of status, acceptance, novelty, but at a frequency and intensity that is biologically impossible to sustain in a real social group. The reward system does not adapt, it just keeps firing. But here is where it gets stranger. The Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer populations on Earth, have been the subject of extensive research by Ponzer and colleagues at Hunter College, New York. The Hadza walk roughly 12 kilometers a day. They engage in moderate to vigorous physical activity for well over an hour and a half daily. The average American adult manages fewer than 20 minutes a week. That is not a typo. The consequences are not abstract. Physical inactivity triggers inflammatory cascades in the body that the immune system was never designed to manage continuously. The brain, which co-evolved with a body in near constant movement, receives a signal it can interpret only one way: something is wrong. But perhaps the most striking data comes from Bolivia. The Tsimane are an indigenous population of about 17,000 people living in the lowland rainforests of the Bolivian Amazon. They hunt, fish, gather, and farm. They are highly physically active. They eat a diet of lean proteins, fish, and fiber-dense plants. They live in small, tight-knit communities. In 2017, a study published in The Lancet examined their cardiovascular health. The results shocked the scientific community. 85% of Tsimane adults showed no risk of heart disease at all. An average 80-year-old Tsimane had the vascular age of an American in their mid-50s. It was the lowest rate of coronary artery disease ever recorded in any studied population. Then, in 2023, researchers from the University of Southern California, led by gerontologist Andre Iremia, published a follow-up. They examined brain volume decline in the Tsimane compared to industrialized populations in the United States, Germany, and the Netherlands. All brains shrink with age, but Tsimane brains shrank 70% more slowly than their Western counterparts. Hillard Kaplan, anthropologist at Chapman University, who has studied the Tsimane for over 2 decades, put it plainly: our sedentary lifestyle and diet rich in sugars and fats may be accelerating the loss of brain tissue with age. This is not a fringe theory. It is documented, measured, published. Here is what the mainstream conversation tends to skip. Depression rates in industrialized nations currently sit above 5% of the adult population. Anxiety affects somewhere between 15 and 20% of American adults. These numbers are cited so often they have lost their shock. But research published in Cambridge's Evolutionary Psychiatry series, examining hunter-gatherer mental health against industrialized populations, found that among the Kaluli people of Papua New Guinea, only 1 in 2,000 individuals met the diagnostic criteria for clinical depression. 1 in 2,000, against 1 in 20 in the industrialized world. These are not genetically different people. They are humans running the same hardware. The variable is the environment. And here is the dark part. The mismatch is not slowing down. Shaw and Longman's 2025 paper argued something most researchers are reluctant to say outright. Natural selection cannot correct this. Evolution moves across thousands of generations. Modern industrial life has transformed in under 10. The body has no mechanism to catch up. The gap will only widen. Every year, the environment moves further from the one the brain was built for. Every year, the systems designed for a different world fire a little harder into a world that does not give them what they need. Think about the last time you felt genuinely well. Not productive, not entertained. Well, calm, present. Like something in your chest had loosened. There is a reasonable chance it involved being outside, moving your body, being with people you actually know, eating something real. Sleeping when it was dark, that is not sentimentality. That is your nervous system being given what it evolved to need. The research from the hunter-gatherer exercise studies is unambiguous. Just 120 minutes outdoors per week is associated with significant improvements in mental health and well-being. Not hours of it, not a lifestyle overhaul. 2 hours. The problem is not that we do not know what helps. The problem is that every system around us was designed to pull us in the opposite direction. Bright screens after dark suppress melatonin the same way artificial light always has, by telling the brain that the sun has not set. Processed food delivers reward signals at intensities that make real food feel dull. Social media provides connection at a frequency that makes real presence feel slow. You are not failing to adapt to modern life. You are succeeding at exactly what 200,000 years of evolution shaped you to do. You are chasing the signals that used to keep you alive. The problem is that the signals have been decoupled from the things they were meant to point toward. There is something quietly devastating about the realization that the things making modern life feel like failure, the restlessness, the craving, the low hum of anxiety that will not explain itself, are not signs that you are broken. They are signs that you are working exactly as designed. A brain built for a world of fire and stars and faces you have known since birth, running in a world of fluorescent light and strangers and notifications that never stop. The body is not confused. It knows precisely what it needs. We have just built a world that makes it very difficult to provide. That is the most unsettling truth in all of this. Not that the mismatch exists, but that it is nobody's fault and everybody's problem, and it will not fix itself. The question it leaves you with is not medical. It is almost philosophical. In a world designed to exploit what your brain was built for, what does it actually mean to live well? If this made you think, consider subscribing. More like this every week.